Part 1. A Strange Paper. One morning, Sherlock Holmes was working quietly in his chair. Watson was sitting nearby, thinking about money. Suddenly, Holmes spoke. "So, Watson, you're not going to invest in South African gold mines?" Watson jumped in surprise. "How do you know that?" Holmes smiled. "You had chalk on your fingers last night, from playing billiards. You only play billiards with your friend Thurston. Thurston has been asking you to invest money with him, but your checkbook is locked in my drawer, and you have not asked for it. So, you are not going to invest." Watson laughed. "How absurdly simple." "Exactly," said Holmes. He tossed a piece of paper onto the table. "Now, what do you make of that?" Watson looked at the paper. It was covered in small stick figures, little men in different positions, as if they were dancing. "Why, Holmes, it looks like a child's drawing." "That is what Mr. Hilton Cubitt of Norfolk thinks too. He sent it this morning. He will be here very soon." A moment later, a tall, healthy-looking man with a red face and clear blue eyes walked in. He looked like a man who spent his life outdoors, strong and simple and honest. "Mr. Holmes," he said, "I see you already have my paper. Can you tell me what those dancing figures mean? They are frightening my wife to death." Part 2. The Story of Hilton. Cubitt. Holmes asked Mr. Cubitt to tell his story from the beginning. 1 year ago, Mr. Cubitt had come to London for a holiday. He stayed at a boarding house, and there he met a young American woman named Elsie Patrick. He fell deeply in love with her, and after 1 month, they were married. But before the wedding, Elsie had said something serious to him. "I have had some very difficult experiences in my life," she told him. "I want to forget all about them. I will never speak about my past. If you marry me, you must promise never to ask about it. If that is too hard for you, then leave me now." Mr. Cubitt had promised. He was a man of honor. A promise was a promise. For 1 year they were very happy at his home, riding Thorpe Manor in Norfolk. Then, 1 month ago, Elsie received a letter from America. When she read it, her face went white. She threw the letter into the fire and said nothing. But from that moment she was never at peace. She always looked afraid, as if she was waiting for something terrible. Then the dancing men appeared. One morning Mr. Cubitt found chalk drawings on his windowsill, small stick figures in different positions. He thought the stable boy had drawn them. But the boy said no. The next morning, more drawings had appeared on the door of the tool house. Then more, on a piece of paper left on the sundial in the garden. Each time Elsie saw the drawings, she looked more frightened. One time she fainted completely. And then one night, Mr. Cubitt sat up watching from his office window. At 2 a.m, he saw a dark figure creeping across the garden. He grabbed his gun and ran to the door, but his wife threw her arms around him and held him back with all her strength. By the time he got free, the man was gone. Mr. Cubitt was angry. He was angry at the stranger, and, just for a moment, he wondered if Elsie was trying to protect the stranger, not him. But he pushed that thought away. He trusted his wife. Holmes listened to everything carefully. Then he said quietly, "Mr. Cubitt, perhaps the best thing to do is ask your wife to tell you the truth." Cubitt shook his head. "A promise is a promise, Mr. Holmes. She will speak when she is ready. Until then, I will not force her." He left the drawings with Holmes and returned to Norfolk. Part 3. Holmes breaks the code. The moment Mr. Cubitt left, Holmes rushed to the table. For 2 hours, Watson watched as Holmes covered page after page with letters and numbers and calculations. Sometimes he whistled as he worked. Sometimes he stopped and sat very still, frowning at the paper. At last he jumped up from his chair. "I think I am close to the answer, Watson, but I need more messages before I can be sure." Holmes also sent a long telegram to an address in America. More days passed. More messages arrived from Mr. Cubitt, more drawings, more dancing men. Holmes studied each one carefully. Here is how Holmes broke the code. In English, the most common letter is E, so Holmes looked for the figure that appeared most often in the messages. That figure must be E. Then he looked for short words. A two-letter word that appeared often was probably be, or it, or at. A three-letter word at the start of a sentence was probably the. Slowly, one letter at a time, the code began to open. The first complete word Holmes found was a name, Elsie. Someone was writing to Elsie, someone she knew from America. Holmes worked harder. He found more words. Threats. "Come. Am here. Abe Slaney." Holmes stood up. His face was serious. The reply to his telegram arrived. It confirmed what he feared. Abe Slaney was one of the most dangerous criminals in Chicago. Holmes looked at the newest message, a long one on the sundial. His face went pale. "We must go to Norfolk tonight," he said. But the last train had already left. "Then we leave first thing tomorrow morning," said Holmes. Not 1 hour later. Part 4. Too late. When Holmes and Watson arrived at the station in North Walsham, the station master ran towards them. "Are you the detectives from London, or the surgeons?" Holmes frowned. "Why do you ask?" "Because of the terrible business at Ridingthorpe Manor. They have both been shot, Mr. Hilton Cubitt and his wife. He is dead. She is alive, but only just." Holmes said nothing. He got into a carriage and stared out of the window for the whole journey, 7 long miles, without speaking a single word. At the house, Inspector Martin of the Norfolk Police was already there. He was surprised to see Holmes. "The crime happened at 3 this morning. How did you get here so fast?" "I came to prevent it," said Holmes quietly. "I arrived too late." He went straight to work. The servants, the housemaid and the cook, had woken up when they heard 2 shots. They had run downstairs and found Mr. Cubitt dead on the floor of his office. Elsie was next to the window, badly wounded, unable to speak. There was smoke in the room. The smell of gunpowder was everywhere. The police believed Elsie had shot her husband and then shot herself. Holmes did not believe this. He examined the room carefully. He looked at the body. He looked at the window. He looked at the walls. "There," he said suddenly, pointing to the window frame. "Do you see that hole?" Everyone looked. There was a bullet hole in the wood of the window frame, coming from outside. 3 shots were fired," said Holmes. "Not 2. Someone stood outside this window and fired into the room. Mr. Cubitt fired back. That man's bullet killed Mr. Cubitt, and Mrs. Cubitt, in her grief and horror, then tried to take her own life." He turned to Inspector Martin. "I suggest you call for more police officers to come here. The man we want will be here very soon." Part 5. The trap. Holmes took a pen and a piece of paper. He wrote a message, not in English, but in dancing men. He gave it to the stable boy with instructions to deliver it to a farm called Elriga's, a short distance away. The message said that Elsie wanted to see the visitor at the house immediately. Then Holmes and the inspector waited. About an hour later, a man walked through the front door. He was tall and broad, with a hard face and cold eyes. He moved with confidence, the confidence of a man who feared nothing. His name was Abe Slaney. He had received Holmes's message written in the Dancing Men cipher. He thought Elsie had sent it. He did not know it was a trap. He stopped when he saw Holmes and the police officers. "You outsmarted me, Mr. Holmes," he said at last. Part 6. The truth. At the police station, Slaney told his story. He and Elsie had grown up together in Chicago. Her father was the leader of a criminal gang, one of the most feared in America. The Dancing Men cipher was the secret code of that gang. Slaney had been a member. He and Elsie had been engaged, promised to marry each other. But Elsie had wanted to leave that life. She came to England secretly, changed her name from Patrick, and started a new life. She married Mr. Cubitt. She was happy. When Slaney found out where she was, he followed her. He sent her messages in their old cipher, threatening her, demanding she come back. Elsie said nothing to her husband. She was too afraid of bringing shame on his family, and too afraid of Slaney himself. On the night of the shooting, Slaney had come to the house. Mr. Cubitt had seen him from the office window and fired his gun. Slaney fired back. Their shots came at almost exactly the same moment. Mr. Cubitt was killed by Slaney's shot, but Elsie, finding her husband dead, had then shot herself in despair. Slaney had not meant to kill Mr. Cubitt, but he had. Epilogue. Abe Slaney was found guilty of murder. His sentence was later reduced because it was known that Mr. Cubitt had fired first. Holmes, on the train back to London, spoke only once about the case. "And so, Watson," he said, "we have ended by turning the dancing men to good, after they were for so long the agents of evil." He looked out of the window. "I only wish we had been one day faster." Elsie Cubitt recovered fully. She never remarried. She spent the rest of her life caring for the people of Norfolk and managing her husband's estate. The end.